Welcome to the Center of Light Radio with spiritual teacher, intuitive, musician, composer, and best-selling author of The Divine Principle, Anchoring Heaven on Earth, your host, Keith Anthony Blanchard.
Center of Light Radio, Center of Divine Unfoldment and Reinforcement. As the guy before me said, yes, I am Keith Anthony Blanchard, your host of this mother ship. Strap in all my broham and sister astronauts as we launch for inner space. A couple of adverts before we, announcements before we get to my phenomenal guest, a mentor of mine from some years ago. We're not going to tell you exactly how many years ago, but a while back. We'll just leave it at that. If you go to my YouTube channel, go to YouTube and look up Center of Light Radio. You can find all my archives there of all my past shows. If there's a particular archived video show that you like, I'd appreciate it greatly if you give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment, and also subscribe to my Center of Light Radio YouTube channel. It'll help me to determine for future certain guests what you're asking for, that I can look and see what it is you're truly liking, what it is you're wanting. So I can honor you in that way, because Center of Light Radio is your platform. As far as services, people have been asking me in the recent past, what else do I do besides play music and host a radio show? Well, I've been doing speaking public presentations for many, many years about basic spirituality, avatars, divine incarnations, extraterrestrials, but I've also helped people, which is pretty much throughout my life daily, people I network and meet and greet with, about how to become empowered so that you are able to live your passion. I'm able to do spiritual readings, life coaching, all that cool kind of stuff. But also check this out. Over my life, I've had quite a few people ask me about things that are happening in their house. Squatters, spiritual squatters. We're talking about ghosts or dark entities. If you have someone living in your house and they're not paying rent, let's get them out of there. I have a bag of tricks. Trust me, I have an arsenal of artillery, spiritual artillery, that will raise the vibration of your house, and poof, they will just disappear. You no longer see them, and they will no longer see you. If they are there for your entertainment purposes and they make you feel happy and laugh and all this cool stuff, and help you believe a little more in that which is beyond the physical, the paranormal, then leave them there. They're not bothering you. But if you want them guys out of there, you let me know, and I'd be more than happy to help you with this. You can send me information at keithanthonyblanchard@gmail.com. Tell me what it is you are wanting me to help you with, and I will be right there. You can bet on that. Still waiting on word from Swamiji Viswa Yogi, God-realized man from India, about coming back into town. Hopefully we get him back here on Center of Light Radio, and I think his theme for this year is healing the earth by purifying the water. Should make for a fantastic broadcast. While you're at Center of Light Radio, if you have not been there recently, go check out this phenomenal website. It looks really, really cool. At the bottom of the opening page on the right-hand side, you'll see a subscription form. Fill it out. Not only will you get my newsletter that I send out monthly, and I promise you I will not send you junk. I put a lot of time and effort, as well as my guest tonight. She is the newsletter queen, let me say. But I put a lot of time and effort into it to find empowering information, because I like giving that to you. Of course, you know me by now. But also, if you want information about my RPM program, Recognize, Plug In, and Manifest Your Life, it's my lifelong work. It's everything I'm about. You will have information there at your hand, in your fingertips as well, about this program. It lasts for a year. I send you an installment once a month. And it's not about fixing you. It's about helping you to expand further into who you really, really are. Money, spiritual enlightenment, peace, that red Ferrari you've been dreaming about. It's all the same technique across the board. You might have to tweak a little here and a little there with different intentions, but trust me, I will be more than happy to hand you the tools that you need so you can beat your feet even faster towards your bliss. While you're at Center of Light Radio, check out the Do What You Love Forever tab. Yet still running that special for $5. You get my bestseller, you get the Self-Reflection Workbook, Divine Daily Supplements, Do What You Love, A Path to Passionate Living, the movie about my life made by Blue Cast Productions out of New York, The Divine Principle, audio multimedia music album. It incorporates the music that you hear at the beginning of the show is my spiritual band Lavender Soul, which is made up of quite a few members of the Memphis Symphony Orchestra. And so I incorporate Lavender Soul's music behind the audiobook of my bestseller, The Divine Principle. It's really, really cool. You also get the Anchoring Heaven on Earth audio meditation. And that is part of the Do What You Love Forever course, which is $5, and you get everything immediately because it's all digital download. And now it's time to get down to Center of Light Radio business. Today, my guest is Ann Sermons Gillis, and we will be talking about how words make a difference. Let me tell you about my phenomenal guest, a mentor of mine from some time back off of Cherry Road. She had this quaint, cool little place called the Connection Center. This is where I started taking my baby steps. Ann Sermons Gillis has been called the foremost expert on ease. She is an international speaker, author of 3 books, Breath Worker, and Personal Growth Coach. She is the past president of the Houston Lodge of the Theosophical Society. Gillis publishes a weekly newsletter that I mentioned just a bit ago called The Easy Secret. Ann's wisdom, humor, and exuberant presentation style makes learning fun. Armed with years of experience in human dynamics, Ann Gillis consistently delivers more than promise. She teaches people how to have accomplishment without struggle by presenting refreshing material that is immediately accessible. She says, life is not meant to be a series of to-do lists punctuated by eating and sleeping. Her approach to non-dualism is called radical presence. I love that, radical presence. And you can find more about my guest today at www.AnnGillis, Gillis, AnnGillis.com. Miss Ann Sermons Gillis, welcome back yet again to Center of Light Radio.
Oh, thank you so much, Keith. It is always wonderful to talk to you and to hear your passion and your exuberance. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I can't wake up and not be passionate. If I do, it's because I'm not feeling well at all. And even that being said, when I'm not feeling well, I still have the fire burning. I just don't feel like moving around too much.
I hear you. I'm laughing about being the foremost expert in ease. What people need to know about being an expert in ease, it doesn't mean that we won't have things happen that are difficult for us to deal with in life. It just means that we can always make things easier than they are, even if they're extremely difficult. And then much stuff that we hear and interpret, we make up between when it happened and when we think about it, it becomes hard. It wasn't hard when it happened, but we make it up. So that's what I deal in, is just making people stop the drama, the addiction to drama, and make it easy, or at least easier. So as I'm saying, everything is not easy, but it's not hard all the time.
I remember years ago when you were teaching a class here in Memphis, you had a theme per week. You would come in with a new theme, and one of those themes was don't be a drama llama.
Yeah.
I remember it very, very well. Tell me about this new topic, this new program, whatever it is you're working on when you contact me and ask me to come back on the show, about words make a difference. In what way were you referring to words making a difference? Of course, we know the power of the spoken word. Is this the direction you were leaning?
Well, that's part of it. I just came out with my 4th book, so I contacted you because I wanted to plug my book, Some Words Make a Difference. And the subtitle of this basically tells what it's about, and that is affirmations, visionary statements, and revolutionary ideas for transforming ourselves, our culture, and our planet. And many people, when they become aware of the power of words, start using affirmations. And the affirmations work sometimes and they don't work sometimes, because there's a lot of subconscious material that hasn't been dealt with. And so people have to stop and go into that subconscious material before the power of their words actually have the power of their words, because the power that they're experiencing is the power of the words they can't see. Those are the subconscious words. And we usually start out with something that's very small, but it has a big impact, and that's the thought that nothing works for me. So those are words that are stuck in our subconscious mind that make our lives miserable, because everything we try to do, regardless of how expert we get at it, it still doesn't work. It doesn't make our lives any better. It doesn't make our lives any easier, because we've got this hidden belief that we don't know is there. So the words that are holding us back are the words we don't even know that are there.
So there's not really any correct words. For example, I want whatever it is I want. I want a new Ferrari, right? And so it's not really the words correctly and perfectly and pretty and having all these attributes correct, because regardless of what words you utter, your energy still has to pass through those filters, correct?
Right. So there are words, and those words we have to, and those are the hidden words, the subconscious words. And as you say, they are energy and vibration. And so whatever we think and say has to go through those. So first we have to neutralize those basic thoughts that, like, life is a struggle, that we're wrong. That's one of the basic life beliefs that most people have, that I'm wrong, or my aliveness affects other people. My aliveness hurts people. We have these kinds of things in the subconscious mind, so we have to root them out of our minds before we can use power in our words. If we're clear, whatever we speak has a tremendous amount of power.
Yeah.
But if we're not clear, we have to deal with what the not clear is.
You know, and this reminds me of something that I've done years ago. It's been a while since I've done it, and maybe it's time that I do this again. And since we're talking about words, I remember starting out with two pieces of paper or one piece of paper and drawing a line down the middle and looking at taking an inventory of myself, all the pros, all what we would call cons, or things I wanted to clean up. And then I took out another piece of paper and I began to write couple, 3, 4 paragraphs of all the things I, quote, wanted, right? And so after looking at this for a couple of days or even a week, I realized some of the things that I wrote in my script I really didn't want. And so I began to edit, begin to chip away, to sculpt, and remove all the extraneous stuff, and left the essence of really what I wanted. And even though I said I wanted greater finances, more peace, more opportunity, it got to a place to where I no longer had to have all these sentences to beckon, to supplicate what it is I was really wanting. It got to a place where I was so clear inside. The only sentence I wrote was, I choose peace at this point in my life. And because I did the work of getting clear in that vibrational sentence was everything that I was professing I wanted. That took 4 paragraphs.
Yes. And that is the progression of words. First, we find out the things that are hidden so that we can have power in our words. Then we probably look and see what we want in our lives. And then we do what we transcend the attachment to getting things to be a certain way in the external world so that we can be happy, and we go directly to happiness. And so that's what you're talking about. Go into the essence, not the form. However, what I will say is that most of the time when spiritual beings are on a path, they are on a path, and they don't understand why nothing is working for them because of these subconscious hidden beliefs. And they also have never even identified the things that they thought they wanted. Their beliefs are based on what society told them, what their parents told them, what authority figures told them, and they don't even know what they want themselves. So it's a progression. First, we have to see what it is we want, that long list you had, so that we can figure out we really don't want it. That sounds odd,
Yeah.
but you keep.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what, gosh, it's like, well, I never even dreamed because I never thought I could have a nice car or something. It's like I'm poor little me. I'm a worm, and I can't have anything nice. And we think, oh no, you can. You can have whatever you want. You can have something nice. And then we move to the point that it's like it really doesn't matter because that's not really the essence of what you're wanting here.
Yeah, we kind of think that these are the things that's going to bring me bliss. But when we connect to the deeper core of ourselves, to the bliss itself, then everything that's contained in that treasure chest, in that trunk, begins to just spew out of you and brings back to your life. And in your book, and the title is called Words Make a Difference, yes?
Right. Words make a difference.
And so, obviously, I would guess that you go through the process of what we're talking about now, helping one become clear so that their words are or become effective. Yes?
Yes. Let me just tell you how I do it. It starts out with working through nothing works for me, and then finding out the right system. If you've ever argued or one has ever argued and they won't always be right, it means they have a wrong system and they probably have the belief, I'm wrong. There's something wrong with me. And that's projected onto the people that we interact with, and we try to make them wrong because we always have to feel like we're right because we believe innately that we're wrong. And so we have to move past that system and understand the okayness of ourselves before we can have an honest interaction with somebody else. It's not based on us trying to get ourselves up out of the gutter. The next one is called Are You Living a Lie? And that lists just many, many beliefs that we have, the lies that we believe about ourselves. The next, I have a personal lie process or inventory where we can identify those and rate where we are on the scale and how to use that scale if we get stuck somewhere. And the next one is aliveness and expression. I think I mentioned that, which is dealing with the belief that my aliveness and my expression hurts others. For example, if we have friends who are always having a lot of drama and we have something good going on in our lives, but we don't want to tell them because we think, oh, they have it so bad, and they don't want to hear about my good thing because they're in the dumps here, and I don't want to brag. I just won't mention it. And usually the truth is, if we have something good happen in our lives, even if someone has drama, they still enjoy hearing about the good things in our lives. But we don't want to tell them because of that belief, my aliveness and my expression hurt others, or I'm too powerful, or I'm too passionate, or I'm too much for people to handle. And so that's handled in that. Then I go into qualifiers, and that is if I have a belief that I want to bring into manifestation, but I don't believe it, then how can I make that thought so that I might believe it? And a qualifier would be something like if I said, I want peace in my life, but I have no belief that there can be any peace because there's so much drama. A qualifier might be something like, I am willing to believe that even though things are very dramatic in my life right now, that there is a power in this universe that can bring peace to my life. And that's
so it's leaving a crack in the door versus just shutting the door, saying this is never going to happen. It's at least inviting the possibility of something more, something grandeur in your life than what you may be currently experiencing, versus just shutting it down completely.
Yeah, because if somebody believes nothing works for me, it's like it doesn't matter what I try to. Goals I try to set or what I try to accomplish or job I'm trying to get, it's like, why bother? Nothing works for me. And so, yeah, open the door a little bit, let a little light say, and it's like, even though I believe that nothing works in my life, I am willing to believe that maybe something could possibly happen in my life. And it's just, cracking the door open a little bit more. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I love it.
And then,
go ahead, Ann.
No, maybe you'll go on with that because I'm going to go into a different thought.
I've always said that if you have something magical happen in your life, if you can look at it as if maybe, just maybe, something you asked about was answered deliberately, not that it's just coincidence you asked about something and it happened to show up and you just go, and you blow it off. If you can begin to acknowledge to yourself that this is a manifestation of what it is you have been working on, you will have a conviction, to use a word, or a belief in in the idea of such things happening. And because you are now elevated in that faith, something else can happen, and it's going to happen a little quicker and a little bigger. And then you go, oh, wow, I think this might actually have some validity. And then now you have something else even more magnificent that happens, almost spontaneously happen. And so we're playing this back and forth game of recognition versus manifestation, validation, manifestation. And next thing you know, you become a conscious, deliberate creator, second nature, and you don't have to even really think about these things anymore because you're living your life on automatic pilot.
Right. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
It's a beautiful place to live in, that's for sure.
Well, I want to tell a story. And when my father died, oh gosh, it's been quite a number of years ago, I didn't cry. I wasn't really broken up. And my parents were divorced when I was 2. And I prayed to him. And I said, I really am not upset. And I said, I didn't feel that close to you when we were in bodies, but I'm just hoping that now maybe I can learn to love you. Maybe you can teach me to love you. Maybe something can change. And I had a dream a few months later, and in the dream, my father came to me, and it was one of those dreams where it felt like he really came to me. It didn't feel like I was dreaming. And he said, I heard your prayer. He said, you want me to teach you to love me. And he said, if you want to experience the love, you're going to have to quit telling the stories. And I said, you mean I can't share things with people? It's like, if you want to experience the love, you're going to have to quit telling the stories. And so, which stories? The lies that you tell about yourself, the lies that you tell about who you are, and the limits you put on yourself. And at that point, I started being filled with this amazing love and bliss, and it completely filled my body, it filled my heart. I felt that love. And then when I awakened, because it really was a dream, it was still happening. It was still that love. And so I think it's very powerful to examine these lies. And as long as I have been on the journey, I'm almost 70, and as long as I've been on this journey, I still find myself, and I mean, I suppose it'll be this way forever, with limits and ideas of certain kinds of perfection that I have to be perfect in some ways. Now, it's not perfect in terms of that I have to look perfect, but it's like I have to be perfectly loving, or I expect myself to do something that even a saint couldn't do, because there's a spiritual perfection that creeps in, that it's like, this is impossible, and just let yourself be a human. And it's like, gosh, this is the same intensity of the story, only it's changed to fit wherever my consciousness is now. It's like the best part of my mind has turned against me and somehow taken root so it can screw me up. So just mentioning that. And so there are layers of discovery and uncovery and recovery in the whole process.
Yeah. A minute ago, you were talking about story. You have to get out of the story. I mentioned it last week, I believe, about how one of my other mentors, he told me to put a piece of paper all around my house, places where I frequent. Don't tell stories, no stories. So I put this all over the house. And I started realizing over a period of time, someone would say, hey, Keith, how was your day? And I would say, I got up about 5:30 this morning and went back to bed, and I ate a bowl of cereal. In fact, I had 2 bowls of cereal. And I go into this long-winded dialogue when the person really was basically asking, how was your day? I had an awesome day today. I ran a few errands and did a few things I liked. My day was phenomenal. How about yours? That's really what he was trying to get me to, this place. And now I'm at a place in my life, in unconditionally loving, without judgment, but me, for myself, making a choice. When someone goes into that long-winded story, I just have to remove myself from the experience, because it's starting on some level to really, really grate on me. And so I'm in the process of finding that part of me that allows it to be as it is, but also juggling with the idea of I'm truly making a choice to not be around it.
So what you're saying is that you are making a choice not to be around it, but you also want to be present with it and not be upset?
That's when I have to be around it, I want to be able to be okay with it. But that being said, I also want to know that, and I have been exercising this. In fact, if it goes into a long-winded story, I'll just say I got to go, and I will just turn around and go somewhere else.
Right. Well, I will say, just give you some thoughts about that, and that
Please.
is normally when a person is going on long like that, for one thing I say is it's best to tell our tales of inspiration, which is your second story, as opposed to our tales of desperation, because most people tell their tales of desperation. And I've found that when I am trying to get away from the person, that my energy is moving away from them and they get more intense, because what they're looking for is presence and acknowledgement. You know, as I mentioned, and you mentioned in my bio about radical presence, when people begin to feel radical presence, they begin to lose the desperation and the need to tell their story. So what I do is rather than backing up, I try to be radically present. And that means bring all my focus and attention to them and be really present. And for the most part, when I do that, the story that they're telling will stop. It's like what they've wanted is somebody to be there to witness their existence, and no one would be there because they've scared them off with their stories and with their desperation. But what happens when we stay? And I've seen it happen over and over again. People will be lecturing me, and I'm radically there, compassionately present, overflowing with all the love that I can. And the person will stop, and they'll just be present. And there's no wrong way to do it. I mean, it's not that getting away is wrong. That is fine. I'm saying that we can also stay, and sometimes we'll have a different outcome. We have to learn, and that's where our intuition comes in also. We have to use our intuition to see what is best now. Do I need to leave? Do I need to stay? Do I need to be more present? You know, how can I love them? What are my judgments? But that intuition has got to be the guideline, because there's not one answer. There's millions of answers.
And that's what I was mentioning, where I'm at when I find myself juggling between the two. Is this truly a choice to let them be with their story and I'm walking away, or is this starting to bring up something in myself that needs to be healed itself? And so I those two do actually crossfade. And we're at the bottom of the hour. Oh, boy, it just goes by so fast. And I have some friends in the chat room who've been asking me, and I'm going to speak with Joe about this a little more later tonight, about expanding Center of Light Radio into a 2-hour show. And I'm actually on the serious side of the fence, really pushing to make that happen. But we are at the bottom of the hour. The number to dial, 888-919-2355, 888-919-2355 to call into the show to ask a question or to say hi to myself or Miss Ann's Sermons Gillis. And if you would please give out your contact information to our listening audience, how they can find you and your marvelous work, darling.
Well, my website is Anne, ANNEGILLIS.com. You can find me on Facebook as The Easy Secret, and that is EZ, The Easy Secret. And you can also sign up for my newsletter on my website. You can click sign up for my newsletter. I put out a weekly newsletter, and it has a lot of tips about making your life easier and sometimes living in the now, and often a good recipe, a good, healthy recipe. And you can also buy my products at AnnGillis.com under products. Just look for my books there. I do have 4 books and multiple CDs there.
From the chat room, Ann, we have a question from Don Danny. Could it be that we have all the answers inside of us? Is it just a matter of finding ways to listen for the answers to everything in our lives?
Well, I think it is. I think he's right. I think that we do have the answers. However, sometimes when we go in and we ask for an answer, we might hear it, or something else external might happen. For example, I heard a story about someone who was asking the universe for help, and a car drove by and a book fell out of the car, and she picked the book up and read it, and it changed her life. So even though the answers inside of it might come from another person, and we've all had that. It's like we just have to grab a certain book and we open it up to a certain page and we get guidance, or someone calls at the right moment and just says the right thing, and or we may hear a voice, or we may have that gut intuition. So we do have this relationship with a higher power that comes from within, but it sometimes answers without, from outside sources, and sometimes the voice comes from within. Our quest, our job, our work is to learn to listen to that voice, hear our intuition, learn to trust it, and learn to act on it.
When I was writing The Divine Principle, that was exactly the dynamic that wrote the book. A lot of it was asking the question, and the answer would immediately fill me. Sometimes it was I had information and I would just formulate a question around the insight. But often, and I would say quite often, in fact, I would ask a question that I thought was very, very relevant. And I got absolutely nothing. And I would sit there and meditate in Indian posture. Nothing. So I would highlight it yellow to know I had to get back to it. And so a week would go by, and you and I are eating food in a restaurant, and we're just chatting along, and there's a lot of clatter and a lot of chatter behind us, all around us. And out of nowhere, I hear people a couple of booths over say something, and it's the answer to the question. And it's
right.
Like, oh my God. And people would ask me, well, how do you know is the answer to the question? Because you can only be pregnant or not pregnant. There is no in between. And when you know bones to bones, there's a feeling that happens. There's no getting out of it. You know the truth. We've all had those experiences when you are so concrete in your faith, this knowing is just planted within you. But this would be the dynamic that would happen to me as well, that I would hear answers, validate something that I put forth from some time in the past.
Yeah, that's great. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but I read through some of my books, and I read it, and I thought, did I write that? I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because it's like I don't even feel like I have the ownership of my books. The words are there, but as a writer, and you probably know this, people say, I want to write. And it's like, if you want to write, the thing you have to do is make yourself available to write. So I write a lot, just like I get up in the morning and write, and just write from inspiration, not necessarily having to have the information go anywhere, so that when I need it, I come back and I find it. It's a chapter in a book, or it's something to put in the newsletter. But if we want to write, we have to write. You just write.
Yeah, and I've always said, don't worry about punctuation. Comma's fine, a period's fine. You want to, if we can liken the writing process, heck, just even the spiritual process of bringing in, be it words or information for a book, or words, information for your life. When you begin the writing process, if you can liken your body to a garden hose, and we have dirt clogs, as we talked about earlier, some of those filters that get in the way from us creating the life that we want. When we begin to run water through that garden hose, yes, it may run muddy for a while, but eventually it's going to become, dirt clog free. It's because the water's going to start running clear. So if you are a writer, when you begin that process and you write what's there, just write, don't judge it, just let the pen or the keys move. Once you become open and available, then something else is going to happen.
Yeah, and it's not just available for a week. Well, I tried. It's like, no, it's more than a week. I mean, it's months, it's weeks, it's years of being available, because things are in the ethers, and as our intuition heightens, we begin to hear more information and get more information. I did remind me of a story that's in one of my book, Offbeat Prayers for the Modern Mystic, and that was that I was getting out of a relationship, and I was just really having a tough time, and my heart was broken. And I sat down and meditated, and I'd been praying, and that at that point in my life, I normally didn't do Dear God Help Me, because I was more into affirmative thoughts at that time, but it was like, listen, I need an old-fashioned prayer here. I am really, really, and I said, does the universe answer such simple prayers? And I sat down and meditated, and I heard the word Ishmael, and I looked it up in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, and the word Ishmael means God hears and answers prayers.
Wow.
And
Fantastic.
so when you said there's a word, when the person said, is the answer there, just knowing, and then after that, I was given some directions on what to do, and the phone rang, and it was the guy, and I knew exactly what to say, and it was like something spoke through me and said the right thing. But as the person that asked the question about it being within, then that one word that bubbled up just made it said about this energetic explosion that helped me through the situation.
Your book titled Words Make a Difference brought me to do a little bit of research on the word abracadabra, which translates to I will create as has been spoken.
Ah, nice.
And, I just thought, I swear to you, I just thought it was some word that was folklore made up from a long time ago just for those Bugs Bunny cartoons when the guy riding the red carpet and they'd say abracadabra and something would poof out of thin air. But doing the research sometime back, but also again today, there is so much to that word, believe it or not, abracadabra. Look it up and they will break the word down into however many syllables it is, 4 or 5 syllables. And each particular syllable of the word has an aspect of the creation process.
Wow.
So
well,
tell
that's
me,
like the word ah. If we think ah, that word is the sound of God, because God is Allah, Buddha, Krishna, God. So that's the sound. And so words do not make a difference sometimes, and words do make a difference sometimes. And if we look at the way that we talk about words in the East, they call that Shakti or Matrika Shakti, which is the power to create from the word itself. And then we call that the Logos in the West. And I think I do talk about the actual power of words, because they do have creative power. The word itself has great creative power. I can remember one time when my husband and I were dating, he never bought me flowers, and my daughter's boyfriend gave her some purple silk flowers. And I thought, my husband would never give me purple silk flowers. I can't even imagine him ever doing anything like giving me purple silk flowers. When I came home, that man had not heard my story. He knew nothing about it. He had bought me purple silk flowers. I said those words with such intensity and such power that he got the message, and I guess he thought energetically, well, I better buy that lady some purple silk flowers. So they make a difference. The problem is that some people become the word police. Every sentence has to be parsed a certain way. And I don't want to, if I'm telling a story or I'm speaking with somebody, I don't want to have to interrupt and say it in the correct way, because it's the intention behind the word that gives it power. I can say
completely.
I can say no, or I can say no. And so it's the same word, but it's the power intensity behind the word along with the word that makes it powerful in whatever way it needs to be powerful.
You were mentioning that one of God's names is Ah. And maybe that's why when we have a realization, we call it an aha.
Aha!
Because the ah would be the recognition or the realization of the ah, and the ha would be that you're just so excited that you finally get something. Aha!
Aha! Well, not only that, but when you do those certain sounds, they actually massage different areas in your body and unlock certain chakras too. And I think the ha probably goes for the heart chakra, and where does the ah go? That must be the top, the crown chakra.
Yeah.
And so we're activating these energy centers with the words that we say. And I think there's like hum and vom and just different. The chakras have different words. That activate them. And so there is a magic to words. It's just to get to become a fundamentalist person about words is not really desirable. In other words, I don't want to spend all my time learning about words and everything. So I'm saying everything has to be perfect and everything has to be correct, and I get really stuck into it. It has value when it makes us happier, when it makes us more communicative and more understood, more we can understand and be understood better. That's when words have the power. That's what we want to go for. We want to go for the fun. We want to go for the juice. We want to go for the love, not the instructional, didactic aspect of words.
I've asked many people have mentioned to me that there are words that, regardless of, I'm sure you're being clear would help, but the point of that was being made that there are certain words that if you utter, it literally makes things happen. And everyone I've mentioned are this to, hoping to get some information. They will never tell me what it is. They basically want me to find out what it is on my own. One of those words came from James Hertog. He wrote the Book of Enoch, the Revised Version. And he said one of those words is Yod-He Vod-He. That this word, when uttered in a crisis, can change the outcome that would be devastating to you if you did not. For example, someone, God forbid, puts you in a corner and has a gun against your head and goes to pull the trigger. When you utter this word, the sky will crack open and things will begin to happen. I've heard this many, many times from a lot of people in the Jewish faith.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It does sound like a Jewish word, and maybe some name of God. I don't know what it means, but yeah. And I think that my thought is that the person has to be connected to the word for it to have power, but I may be wrong.
Well, I agree, because you can utter anything. Some people may say it's the power of Christ within me that repels you from whatever word you choose. It's the oomph that one pushes behind what is being uttered. But supposedly now that any utterance of this particular word will have some sort of profound effect, depending on the situation you're in. You can't just really utter the word and expect something just to happen in your life. But because of such situations that one may find themselves in, which creates an intensity inside of the person, they're uttering that word from that space of an intensity, which in turn, I guess, creates the desired effect or the help or the rescuing that one may need.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah, I am sure that there are many words of power that are more or less more in secret and more in the secret societies because people mishandle and misuse power. And so if we have a pure heart, then those words empower us. But if we don't have a pure heart and we're operating from an ego sense, then the words can turn against us.
Absolutely. We think about Dr. Emoto's work. Even though those words were written down and put on these containers of water, you're familiar with his work, yes?
Yeah.
It's beautiful, amazing. And in fact, if we can, look at labels on our water, it changes the very biology of the water at a molecular level. But also, if we think about how did these Tibetan Buddhist monks build these monasteries in places that you have to literally climb up the mountain to get there, and they're made with these stones that are physically impossible to move. It's because they would utter these chants that would levitate these stones. Again, we go back to the power of such words.
Well, that would be the way to do it. I've seen some of those. I saw one monastery in the East. A YouTube video, and they figured how long it would take to make that thing, and using all the manpower available and everybody working 24 hours a day, it was going to take like 300 years to build it. And I mean, so there may be something even bigger than that that's working there.
I would agree.
The mind. Yeah, our minds are so finite. We think in certain trains of thought and just won't allow other kinds of possibilities in. For example, it could be some kind of other dimensional bleed-through that has a technology that we don't know, and it's interfacing with this plane. But we have this mind that is set on what we've experienced, and it also is interpreted by the limitation of our own brains. And so we see very little now. I think First Corinthians says something, we see through a veil. We see through a mirror, like a mirror reflection. That's what we see. And so rather than poo-pooing, some things sound crazy and ridiculous to me, but rather than saying this can't possibly be, I prefer to say, well, who knows?
Yeah, right. It's leaving a crack in the door open.
Yeah, because it's just, infinity is big. And we think through, infinity is big, and we think through very limiting perceptual apparatus. And
your knowledge base, Ann, is so broad. You dabble in so many different fields, and you're well versed in all of them. It's really, really fun to talk to you because a lot of guests, which they all loved and all powerful in their own way, they have one or two subjects and they're really, really powerful and strong in them. But I like speaking with some of my guests who are just so well versed, and the conversation can lean into whatever direction it wants to go. It just makes for a good time, at least for me.
Well, I can tell you why that's so. I always joke, and I said, somebody who really has trouble with relationships will teach about relationships, and somebody who really has health challenges will teach about the physical body. Somebody who has financial challenges will teach a lot about prosperity, and somebody who wants to know about, hidden secrets will deal in mysticism. Well, I deal in mysticism, relationships, money, physical health. I love it because I needed to know all of it. I didn't have a strong suit. They were all weak suits, so I had to build them all up.
So, Ann, tell me a little more about your book is out now. Is that correct?
My book is out now.
How big
really
is it?
is.
How
I'm
thick is it?
excited
How many
about
pages?
Let's see, 200 and it's about 273 pages, 274.
Very cool. How long did it take you to write this?
I'm embarrassed because my last book I put it together in 6 weeks, and this book, I probably worked on it on and off for 2 years. I had a period where I didn't work on it at all, so it took me a couple of years to put it together.
Well, it's amazing to me that you kind of disappointed in the fact that it took you some time, because my first one took me 8-9 years, and the second one took 15. So you're doing pretty doggone good, let me tell you.
Well, I've got 3 books. It's like I am just putting the reprint out of Theosophy. The book, my second book, Theosophy, is coming out in reprint, and so I've been working on that, and I've just gotten it to the printer. As a matter of fact, before I was you called, I'd been working with the cover artist on the cover and trying to get that out. And so it's like, oh my gosh, I've gotten all those books to the printer and everything. It's like, now it's time to start on. I've got a book on money, one on relationships, and then one on radical presence or living in the now. And so those books they're just bursting to get out.
I'm looking at the cover now. It's very, very cool, very Japanese balancing. It's very, very cool. I just got up the net and dropped it in the chat room there. Very, very good looking cover. So what is coming down the pike for Ann Sermons Gillis?
Well, my husband and I are in the middle of this right now of buying a truck and a trailer, and I think we're going to try to go around the country a little bit. I'll do a little bit of speaking and selling my books and so forth, and that'll be a new adventure.
Well, let me know if you make it out to Memphis. I can set you up here. I'm sure I have lots of friends. We have lots of friends. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Duh. You used to live here.
Yeah, I did, but I've lost touch with many, many people, but I do know that there's some Memphis sites. But yeah, so I do plan to get that way at sometimes. And yes, thank you so much for that offer. I'd love to. So that's my next thing right now. We had planned to move to Western North Carolina, and due to the oil prices going down so far, and us living in a home where there's a lot of oil people here, and a lot of homes for sale, our home has not sold. And so I said, well, if the home isn't going to sell, we'll just move. We'll have a moving home, so we're going to travel around.
Dig it. I think that's really, really cool.
And I will say that I had the and it may be that the house will sell, and it takes me a long time to develop this whole theme of moving. However, what I want to say is that rather than just be really upset because the house hasn't sold or trying to knuckle down and manifest the house selling, I am open to the house selling. And as I said before, I don't know. I think that there is a higher power than my ego that knows more than I do, and I don't have all the information I need. So the house is for sale, and it may or may not sell. It used to be that if I wanted to do something, I'd really knuckle down and manifest it.
And it doesn't always mean that's what your higher self would choose for you. Totally get
right.
it. Totally.
And so I'm just trying to listen more. I felt like we needed to do that. The house is for sale, but let me just kind of stand back and surrender and allow it to happen. And it may not happen. Maybe it was all about just getting rid of a bunch of stuff in my house. Who knows?
Maybe it was just to play the game.
Maybe so.
Isn't that what it is anyway? We're all just sitting here just playing poker or chess or just what the game of life even really.
Right. Well, that's a very Leela. That's the term in Sanskrit that life is this game, this dance that we do.
Yeah.
And I like that. That
and
means
if you
that
would, we're slowly coming up towards the top of the hour. Give me an overview of what you would like our listening audience to know about your wonderful new book that is out.
Oh, what would I want you to know about this wonderful new book?
Yeah, give us an overview of how
I want to just tell you about the process about this book. When I was in my 20s, I wanted to write a book on affirmations, and I never did. And as I got older, I thought, oh, affirmations, that's just such simple stuff. I don't know if I want to write a book on affirmations. I'm beyond that. I'm beyond that. But as I wrote this book, it morphed into something that was much greater than a book about affirmations. There are affirmations, but it morphed into sharing very strong and powerful ideas about transforming my culture. This book takes us from the me to the we. The me is healing my own issues, and then the next part of the me is learning how to maintain everyday life with power, and then we move on to transforming our culture and transforming the consciousness of the planet. And so we don't want to stay in the me, getting my stuff handled, getting more things for me. We want to move on into being light workers for everyone in the planet. That's where we're headed, and that's where the book takes us in that direction and drops us off as planetary light workers.
I recently watched this program, and I strongly suggest if you guys got some spare change, there's a spiritual network out there, sort of like Netflix. It's called Gaia TV. There's a show on there called Cosmic Disclosure. We're not going to get into that. It's about 22 alien civilizations living on the dark side of the moon, and that humans are already colonizing space. And I'm watching this 6-season series every week. My jaw is hitting the ground because there are astronauts coming forward saying the same thing that Corey Goode, who happens to be a whistleblower of whistleblowers, this blue orb of light would show up in his room and ask him if he's ready. He'd say, I am. The ball would engulf him, and 3 minutes later, he's on the dark side of the moon. And so anyway, point is, there was this saying that Corey said. They were talking about the awakening and ascension. How do we know, or who are those who would ascend, whatever word you choose, however metaphorically you look at the ascension process? But he says it's not necessarily required or asked of you that you become this spiritually enlightened being to ascend. It's more of the process or of the fact that if 51% of your life is being in service to other people, if there is a shift to describe what people call the ascension process, that 51% guarantees your place on the boat.
Okay. Well, I do. I like that. What I would say is that from the eyes of compassion, that compassion holds everything, and everyone gets on the boat. Compassion, takes the woundedness, the excellence, and and holds it all in its heart. There's nothing that can be excluded. And so I believe that we all make it to the boat. The timing may be a little off on some, but there is only one boat, one heart, one life, one power, one presence. And now that may be an intermittent phase. I mean, there's so many workings. Like I'm saying, we're talking infinity here. We're talking about layers of existence. We're talking about multiple beings. We know beings like people. I mean, there can be essences of life force that doesn't even have form. I mean, we don't know.
Thought
we don't know.
Yes.
But so in the linear expression of what this person is saying, then that is a part of the story that at some point will coalesce into one point of light and love. And so, he's telling a part of the story, but it's not the whole story.
Yeah, I would think that whenever a person arrives to the boat, that just so happens to be when everybody gets on it together. The rest is just your own story, I guess. Or the story that you're living out because of the one you told yourself. When everybody gets on the boat, I mean, who knows, then the next part may be that they sail somewhere else and the people that were left behind, I don't know, just are so bad that they turn into fertilizer and grow into trees. I mean, I don't know. And Gillis, we're at the top of the hour, darling. Would you give us a short outro quote, something you'd like to leave our listening audience with of empowerment?
A quote.
Quote or whatever it is that Anne would like to offer out.
Okay, well, what I was thinking is maybe I would quote something from my book.
Perfect.
Well, I just happened that this is what I opened it to, and that is a visionary statement for social justice. I envision a world where everyone has clean drinking water, a safe place to live, and a job that pays living wages. I see a world where people are free to speak out, worship as they wish, be atheists as they wish, and to participate in a just and fair government. I picture a world where slavery is abolished and everyone is free to live the lifestyle of his or her choice. I see a world where all races are respectful of other races, gender differences, and where people realize the diversity that brings strength. I see a world where there's justice for animals. No animal is allowed to suffer, and our animal friends have safe and protected habitats and access to plenty of food. Animals are not thought of as commodities, but as beings with feelings and rights. Every living creature is respected as an integral part of the web of life. I see a just, thriving society for everyone. The principles and concepts of social justice are a growing power in the fabric of every society. Freedom, peace, abundance, and happiness reign. And so it is.
Everyone, and Sermons Gillis as a phenomenal, dear friend of mine, but phenomenal guest here on Center of Light Radio. You can find more of her at AnneGillis.com. That's AnneGillis.com, AnneGillis.com. Anne, thank you for being back. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Keith. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
What
Bye-bye.
a phenomenal guest. I love this lady. I love her diversity and everything that she does. Center of Light Radio. Oh, by the way, next Monday night, you cannot miss this broadcast. Well, you can, but I advise that you be here. Dr. John Robinson. We're going to be talking about his new book, The Divine Human. This is kind of my path. The divine marrying itself upon this physical earth, and we become that which we really are, the essence, but in human form. And John is such a phenomenal, powerful, likable guy. It's just I'm excited already about the show for next week. Every night, folks, every night when you lay down, you have nothing to do. Just start that breathing process in and out. Breathe like you want something beyond you've always known. Breathe passionately. Yes, breathe passionately. And you will find yourself shortly after that being in contact with something greater than you've ever known. But it's something you've always known. It's yourself. But in a very different way. You will come to realizations beyond realizations. You will find guidance. You will find everything you need once you break through the ceiling of thought by using meditation. Believe in yourself, because that's all there is. You have to believe in yourself first before you can ever believe in God. You can only believe in the small before you can ever grasp the grandeur. There is no other way. Dive in within yourself. Take care of yourself and each other. Peace, love, and light. I'll see you next week.